What if your customers are trying to find your business online, but instead of finding you, they find your competitors? Now, more than ever, it's time to make sure you have the right SEO to make your business stand out online. Welcome to Go Mind Your Business with Terry Bork, presented by Extreme Marketing Concepts, putting your business in front of the hungry herd of buyers who are looking for you right now. Extreme Marketing Concepts, helping you drive more traffic, dominate the market, and crush your competition. And now, here's Terry.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Go Mind Your Business, brought to you by the TalkWad Network. Check out all the other shows on the TalkWad Network by listening to www.talkwad.com. Go Mind Your Business is part of the all of your business radio shows here at the TalkWad station. Today, I'm really excited to have Darlene Myers with us today. Darlene is a human resource consultant, and she's got a lot of awesome tips that she's going to share with us today. So, Darlene, welcome to our program.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Oh, we're so happy to have you. Our show today is sponsored by Extreme Marketing Concepts, putting your business in front of the hungry herd of buyers who is looking for you right now. Give them a call at 813-863-1452. So let me share with you a little bit about my guest today. Again, her name is Darlene Myers, and she's a human resource consultant helping companies create profitable, effective workplaces where employees like to work. And Darlene has developed and delivered programs and trainings on various human resource topics, including compliance, customer service, successful relationships in the workplace, managing employee files for organizations and compliance, employee manuals, performance reviews, as well as customized presentations. She's worked in both the public and the private sector, and her experience in human resources enable her to deliver service in the areas of strategic workforce planning, human resource auditing, employee manual review and development, manager-supervisor training, document review, employee investigations, and other HR-related services. Darlene has a BA in Business Management and is certified as a Senior Professional in Human Resources, SPHR. She's a member of the Society for Human Resource Management, a National Association for Human Resource Professionals, and a member of her local SHRM chapter, the Suncoast Human Resource Management Association. She's also a member of Business Network International, or BNI, out of the Success Alliance group in Dunedin, Florida. And in that chapter, she serves on the leadership team. She's also a member of the Palm Harbor Chamber of Commerce. Additionally, Darlene writes articles for Examiner.com. You can check out Darlene's website by visiting www.strategichumaninitiatives.com. And you can reach her on the phone by calling 727-698-4241. Now, Darlene currently lives with her husband and their two little dogs, Beauregard and Ernie, in Palm Harbor, Florida. And she likes winter and summer outdoor activities, entertaining, reading, time with her family, and she's learning how to play golf. Again, Darlene, welcome to our program.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's so great to have you. Now, before we get started, I'd like to invite all of you to grab a pen and a piece of paper because we're going to be playing some games with Darlene today, and I just want you to all be prepared before we totally get started. So, again, Darlene, welcome to our program. Tell us, you gave me a great bio to share with everybody about yourself. How did you pick HR?
It was kind of an accident, actually, when I started into it. A friend of mine was working in HR, and she needed some help in the benefits area. This is many years ago.
Sure.
And she asked if I would be interested in helping her in her area. So after trying it, I actually really liked it.
Okay.
And that's kind of how I got started with it.
Okay. Well, that's terrific. What would make someone hire an HR consultant? Why would a company do that?
Well, one of the things that they should think about if a company is looking to hire an HR person is the fact that there are a lot of legal issues that come up with employees, and that's pretty common to hear in the news. So if you've got more than 5 employees, you're probably in a situation where you need some outside help. You don't need a full-time person, and that would be the reason for hiring a consultant, to have
Okay.
somebody there on
Hmm.
an as-needed basis.
Okay. Oh, I got that. So that makes total sense. Would you recommend a company look for what type of company when hiring a consultant? Is there any type of company that people should look at?
Well, more so the consultant themselves, when they're looking at hiring
Uh-huh.
a consultant, there's at least 5 things that I recommend that they look for.
Hmm.
3 of those things actually have to do with things that show how committed that person is to their industry and
Okay.
their profession. The
Okay.
first one is, as with any profession, human resources has the Society for Human Resource Management.
Okay.
And the benefit of that to a consultant or any human resource professional is that you have information available to you that there's no way you can know everything
Sure.
in any
Right.
industry. But if you have the resources and you have the ability to call a knowledge line when you do have questions, that's the benefit of being a member of an organization like that. So
Oh,
it's
that makes
important
sense.
that they're a member of that association. They're the premier one for human resources in the United States, actually nationwide.
Okay.
And the other thing is that I would suggest is that they be certified in
Okay.
one of the 3 areas. There's what is called a professional in human resources, a PHR designation.
Okay.
There's an SPHR, which is senior professional in human resources. And then there's a global professional in human resources,
Okay.
which is a fairly new one. But if they have at least one of those 3 designations, you know that they've had to study and pass a test that shows that they know at least a minimal amount of information to be able to handle the issues that are going to come up in HR. And if there's questions they don't know the answer to right away, they know where to go to get them.
Okay. That makes sense.
And then the third area is there's almost always a local SHRM, which is
Uh-huh.
uh, Society for Human Resource Management, is what they're lovingly referred
Okay.
to as SHRM.
Sure.
There's usually a local SHRM chapter
Okay.
just about any city that you go into. And the benefit for a human resource person being involved with that is they now have a network of people that they can bounce ideas off of. They can get new ways of handling issues that come up in employment issues.
Mhm.
And there's always employees are always coming up with new ways
Mm.
to stump their employers.
That's true.
So yeah, they are. So it's just very important that they have that interaction. And again, it just shows their commitment to the industry and the profession that they've chosen.
Sure, I got that.
And
Okay.
then the fourth thing would be that they have at least between 5 and 7 years of experience,
Mhm.
because you can study case studies all day long,
Mhm.
but it's not the same as actually sitting across the desk from an employee
Right.
that's having a crisis, and you're trying to work with them through that and help the employer to handle it legally and equitably, right?
Sure. Got that.
And then the fifth thing would be that the HR person has some understanding of the implications on a financial basis of how the decisions the company makes with regard to employees actually affect the company from the bottom line standpoint. And that's a very
Oh,
important thing, because they really employees are what we make our money with, and
right.
sometimes they're actually not listed that way on a balance sheet. They're
Mm.
actually not looked at as an asset. They're looked at as a cost.
Right.
So until those accounting procedures are changed, we need to sell the importance of our employees
Mhm.
to upper management, and that's one of the things that's important for an HR manager to be able to do.
Okay, I got that. Now, would these requirements be the same for an HR employee?
Yes, I would say so. No, one of the things that I would encourage any employer to do is allow your people, whether they're HR people or you have engineers, if they are involved in a national organization or a local chapter of a national organization,
Mhm.
they should be encouraged to attend those meetings because they get valuable information from that. And those are the same things that I would expect from an employee as well.
Okay, awesome. That makes sense. This is really awesome. So tell me, how would a business know if they need help from a human resource professional?
Well, typically, if you have started hiring people outside your family,
Hmm.
you probably should be getting some kind of input from someone to help you make some policies and procedures, maybe have a manual. Usually people feel like they're too small at that point,
Hmm.
but in reality it's not. If you're planning to grow your business, you really need to treat it like a big business to begin with, and as you grow, things will go much smoother.
Hmm.
I just heard a story about an individual in Arkansas, and I just heard this story yesterday. He had a sister working for him,
Hmm.
and funnily enough, she embezzled $2 million from her brother.
Oh my goodness.
So, I'm sure he didn't expect that and probably didn't have safeguards in place
Right.
to handle a situation like that. But that just goes to show you that, it's not that you don't want to trust anyone,
Right.
but just treat it like a business, you
Well,
know.
that's a great tip. I've heard it say that there are 5 actions that can get an employer into trouble. What do you think those 5 are?
Well, probably number one is documentation.
Okay.
And that's an area that it's a continual challenge for
Hmm.
employers, and easy for it to be that way also. But the documentation, whether it be the lack of it
Hmm.
or what we call papering an employee's
Right.
file.
Okay.
And if you have any experience with working in HR, when either way,
Uh-huh.
when you're seeing something that's a little bit a mess. But that would be the first thing. The documentation is a key area to watch for, and make sure that as things are going on within your company, you're documenting them and
Hmm.
putting them into the employee's file. The next thing would be untrained managers.
Okay.
And the reason that's a problem for employers is that untrained managers will say things that may give the impression that they're being discriminatory or they're retaliating against an employee,
Uh-huh.
which can always cause problems in the
Sure.
long run.
Okay.
And then an indifference to complaints that employees have, not a good idea. You never want to dismiss a complaint. You may not want to blow it out of proportion either, but
Right.
always pay attention to it. Don't just brush it off and say, "Oh, you're just being oversensitive."
Sure.
It can cost you a lot of money in the future if they happen to have the right contacts.
Sure. Sure.
So, inflated performance appraisals and performance appraisals are a continuing challenge as well for companies. And the big thing to watch out for is that when you're doing a performance appraisal, that you don't give somebody a better appraisal than what they really deserve,
Hmm.
because if 6 months later you decide that you need to get rid of them because they've not been performing correctly, but the only thing in their file is that they exceeded expectations in the last performance evaluation that they had, that's not going to come across very believable that suddenly 2 or 3
They
months
just
later
tanked.
or
Yeah.
6 months later, oh, they're just terrible. I have to get rid of them.
Got it.
Okay.
Okay.
And then probably the fourth thing is firing people just too quickly. You
Uh-huh.
need to have a process that you go through, performance improvement plan, things that you can document that
Mhm.
you've made the effort to help them through this so
Okay.
that they can work it work
Got
it
it.
out.
Okay. Terrific. What's the biggest cause of problems within an organization?
That would be interpersonal conflict. And
That's in every organization.
yes, exactly. And I hate to keep coming back to communication as being the biggest problem that you'll see,
Uh-huh.
but you're going to probably hear that several times in our discussion today,
Okay.
because it is just the key thing that people need help with
Uh-huh.
is their communication skills. And as you might imagine, when people have conflicts between themselves, usually it's due to somebody not understanding what the other person meant,
Right.
or misinterpreting in some way. And so communication is just a huge area that causes the problems.
Okay. Well, that's everywhere. That's personal relationships. That's outside of work too. That's family.
Exactly.
So that's everything. So yep, I can totally understand why that would be a big problem within an organization itself. Is there a common lawsuit among employees?
Right now, the most common lawsuit among employees is retaliation,
Hmm.
and that can come through whistleblowing. When an employee sees that something's wrong, they might call the EEOC.
Hmm.
They might, um, there's the Sarbanes-Oxley
Right.
program.
Sure.
So anyway, there's a number of different things that people can do that might be considered whistleblowing, and
Right.
if it's construed that the response of the supervisor or manager is trying to get back at them, either laying them off,
Hmm.
suddenly
Right.
they made this complaint and now suddenly we don't need you anymore.
Sure.
Not a good idea.
Right.
You're probably going to have some repercussions from that.
Right.
There's issues with people that they'll take maybe need to take time off for family issues and take the Family Medical Leave Act time.
Right.
And I've heard of it with people that have religious issues. They have religious beliefs that require certain
Right.
behavior from them.
Hmm.
Maybe they need to take certain time off. They might be chosen to be the one that gets reduced in their time. So now they only get part time instead of full time. That would be considered a retaliation.
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
If you're just joining us, we're speaking with Darlene Myers. She is a human resource consultant over at Strategic Human Initiatives. And you can visit her website to learn more about HR issues by going to www.strategichumaninitiatives.com. Strategichumaninitiatives.com. You can also reach her on the telephone by calling 727 698 4241. So, as an employer, myself, sometimes I have a difficulty in keeping my employees engaged. So, can we talk a little bit about how an employer can go about keeping their employees engaged?
Yeah, that's a good question. One of the big areas, again, is
Mhm.
communication with
Right,
your employees. You want to keep them involved in what's going on with your organization.
right.
And communication is, again, a two-way street.
Sure.
So having a group meeting where they're all sitting in the chairs and you're telling them things is not generally the best form of communication. It's a form, and I'm not saying
Okay,
it's
right.
not.
We've done
It's
that.
it's. I'm not saying it's not a good idea to do that,
Uh-huh.
but that shouldn't be the only way that they're communicated with,
Right.
because since it's only one-way communication, you're not really getting their input,
Mhm.
and they're not able to ask you the questions maybe that they really need to.
Mhm.
One of the things that will keep them engaged is feeling appreciated.
Okay.
So sometimes it doesn't take a whole lot to make people feel appreciated, just a
Yeah.
word or two of
Mhm.
encouragement. You did a great job on that account with Mr. Smith
Mhm.
last week.
Right.
Try to be as specific as you can. That's going to make the biggest difference
Okay.
with them as
Right.
opposed to the general comments. A corporate culture, it's kind of a vague term,
Mhm.
and it's a little bit hard to understand in terms of, like, you can't touch it, but you and I have both felt that. You've walked into a place and you immediately know if it's a friendly environment
Right.
or if it's open,
Mhm.
if they're open to suggestions or whatever the thing that you feel, it's there and it's unmistakable,
Right. Yeah.
but you can't see it. And
Right.
that's what culture is. So you want to develop a culture that is open and takes your employees into consideration, and they get that and they
Mhm.
feel it.
Right.
If they feel it, they'll probably respond likewise.
Okay. Great. I've definitely can relate to that. I know I've walked in some businesses and everybody's happy and it's a feel good and there's positive music in the background and
Yes.
nothing negative. And you've walked into other places and you could cut that tension with a knife and it's
Mm-hmm.
like, wow, can't wait to get
Yes.
out of there. So
Yeah.
I like the warm fuzzy feel.
Mm-hmm.
So okay, that's a really
Yeah.
good thing to help. Okay.
And
Love
that
that.
that actually makes a big impact on your retention
Hmm.
with employees as well.
Yeah.
You'll see that. Adequate supplies.
Uh-huh.
Having the supplies you need to do the work you have to do. And supplies may be
Uh-huh.
the the bandwidth in terms of the number of employees for the amount of work that you have to do.
Hmm.
I've seen in a number of places where there's an enormous amount of work to be done and it's expected to be done, but you're working on such a skeleton crew it's almost impossible to get it done.
Sure.
Well, that leaves employees feeling really like they can't do the job that they really want to do, especially if they want to be excellent at their job. They
Hmm.
want to do an excellent job for you,
Right.
but they are unable to spend the time to do an excellent job because there's not the time given to them to do it
Makes
because they don't have
sense.
enough
Sure.
help. And then finally, training.
Uh-huh.
Uh,
Big
just
one.
the ability to be trained and learn new things, being able to develop yourself,
Hmm.
and to know that you're getting up to date information on what the company is really what they want from you.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. You know, another area that's tricky for employers too is effective performance appraisals. Can we talk about creating an effective performance appraisal for our people?
Sure can. And that is, I mentioned that a little bit earlier,
Yeah.
that's a big challenge for companies. I think one of the biggest problems with it is what I've noticed is it's almost, if you're familiar with Stephen Covey and
Mm-hmm.
the
Yes.
7 Habits of Highly
Yes.
Effective People, remember he had 4 quadrants.
Mm-hmm.
Performance appraisals kind of fall into that quadrant that are important but not urgent.
Right.
And the problem with that is that because they are so important, and it is important because it does lend itself to the engagement of the employee because they know how they're doing based
Mm-hmm.
on those evaluations. That is one of the things that make it pretty critical to make sure that they are effective.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things that I would suggest for starting to get effective performance evaluations is to make sure you've trained your managers in how to do an effective performance evaluations. It's very common for people to be promoted into a management situation because they were good at their job
Mm-hmm.
and they really don't have any management background, and suddenly they have all these management tasks that they really have never been trained on.
Right.
And again, as I mentioned before, if they start to say things that can be construed as discriminatory, and it can be the most innocent thing.
Sure.
They may be just trying to start conversation or get a conversation going in a
Mm-hmm.
certain area, and some of the things that they've said will now cause you a problem because the employee may take them wrong, or any number of
Absolutely.
things. But you want to make sure that they're trained. That's a very key thing.
Okay.
Have performance standards set for each um, employee's job.
Mm-hmm.
Job descriptions are a great thing, and a lot of smaller companies don't really have the job descriptions for their employees. They've started growing. They hired people and said, "Here's what you do." They get trained on the job, but there's no real description written
Mm.
out.
Okay.
So a manager doesn't have anything concrete to determine, to make
Right.
a determination that really gives a good indication, did they really meet the requirements we
Mm-hmm.
wanted of
Right.
them. So have measurable activities that
Okay.
you can measure.
Okay.
Then if there's been any recognition or discipline that's occurred throughout the year, especially if you've got somebody that's been there for a couple of years, you want to look back at their previous performance evaluation. Take note of anything that was going on at the time. If
Mm-hmm.
it needs to be addressed in this one, be sure you do address it,
Okay.
because many times these things don't just go away. But if they've never looked back at the previous
Right.
evaluation, they're not addressing it. So if there is a problem in the future, well, how come it wasn't addressed?
Sure.
This
That
came up,
makes
a year
sense.
ago, and it was not
Right.
even mentioned in this one. So if it was such a bad thing, why not?
Right.
So
Okay.
you want to make sure that you've recognized any discipline that has happened,
Mm-hmm.
address it.
Okay.
Any any recognition that is of a positive nature as well. You
Mm-hmm.
want to make sure that they are recognized for the good things that they've done, and it helps if you have kind of found out what it is that makes that employee feel
Mm-hmm.
appreciated. And I know that that is something that people have, some companies have actually started asking a question like that
Mm-hmm.
when they hire people. How would you like to be recognized if you
Right.
do something that
Yeah.
we feel is worthy of recognition?
Mm-hmm.
And then you kind of know how to respond to that.
Sure.
So that's helpful.
Yeah, we do that in our company. I like to know, do you like to go to dinner?
Hmm.
Get a gift certificate. Do you
Oh,
want,
that's great.
do you want to, have me acknowledge you in front of a meeting? Do you want an email, sent out to everybody? Like, what are different things that you enjoy?
Very good.
And because different people like different things. Some people just
Correct.
want, hey, good job, and other people just
Exactly.
want a party, so or whatever, to go out or do something fun.
Yeah, you're to be
You know.
commended for that because a lot of folks don't do that, but I'm glad to hear that you do, and
Yeah,
that's an excellent thing.
I thought it was a fun thing.
Yeah.
We are gonna take a break and have a word from our sponsor, Extreme Marketing Concepts, and we'll be right back here on Go Mind Your Business. And welcome back to Go Mind Your Business here on All Your Business Radio, part of the Talk Wad Network. My name is Terry Bork, and if you've just joined us, I'm speaking today with Darlene Myers, a human resource consultant at Strategic Human Initiatives. At the beginning of the hour, I asked you to please grab a pen and a piece of paper, Darlene, and I would like to have a little bit of fun with you. And we're going to do a little exercise, and I don't know what it is. So she's going to guide us through this, and I'm going to give control over to Darlene. So here we go, Darlene.
Okay, so everybody get your paper ready and your pencil or pen.
I have mine.
This exercise is going to show how important two-way communication is.
Okay.
My instructions to you will be, it's just going to be me telling you what I want you to draw.
Okay.
No one can ask any questions. So
Okay.
here we go.
All right.
Draw a rectangle box. Now draw 3 circles. Draw 1 rod, a rod-shaped item, and 1 hook, something that looks like a hook. All right, now let me see what you have. That looks very similar to the one that I did the first time that I did this exercise.
Okay, I'm going to show our audience too what I drew. You get to see it. Hold on, everybody. Let's see if we can get up close.
Okay, so here's
All right.
so here's what I was actually drawing. I don't know if they can see that. Is that?
Oh, is that what it's supposed? Oh my goodness, it's supposed to look like a traffic light.
Yes, it's a traffic light. So, and you can see it's a rectangle box with a, and most people don't, because they don't have the opportunity to ask questions about where do the circles go, or where where should I put the hook or
Right,
any of that.
right.
So anyway, that just kind of
Wow.
shows
So I'm
how,
all over the board.
yeah, and I did the same thing when I did it the first time. So that's why I just thought it was such a good exercise
Yeah.
to illustrate the fact that without two-way communication, you really don't have full understanding, which is the importance of making sure that you have two-way communication with your employees.
Oh my goodness. Yes, that is really vitally important. Especially as an employer, you want to make sure that you're just doing the right thing by your people.
Sure.
Speaking of the right thing, um, sometimes employees need discipline, They're kind of like kids.
That's
No.
true.
So, how can I put, an employee into a discipline action without putting my company at risk of any type of lawsuit or problems?
Again, the first thing that you want to do with regard to discipline is
Mm,
documentation.
right.
Make sure that any interaction that you have with an employee that is of a disciplinary nature, or it, let's say you have a situation where whatever the employee has done is going to require discipline,
Hmm.
make sure that immediately you make notes about what happened. You and you want to make sure you get it into the file immediately.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
There's 3 rules to follow: making it immediate, and the next thing is make it accurate and believable. And how do you make it accurate and believable? Well, you give a lot of facts,
Hmm.
not your opinions.
Okay.
Not, I think he was acting like a jerk. Well,
Right.
that's really vague, and that's your
Sure.
opinion.
Right.
So what you really want to say is, maybe if you know the words that were spoken,
Uh-huh.
say the words that were spoken.
Right.
Write those down.
Right.
Whatever happened, make sure that you're specific, it's factual, and it's an observation that you made, not your opinion.
Okay.
Okay.
That really does help.
The next thing is getting agreement, and that's not always that easy to do. But once you have actually done your documentation, this isn't something that's supposed to be secret from the employee, because they need to know
Hmm.
what's going on.
Right.
Otherwise, they can't correct it,
Right.
and it's going to come back to haunt you in the future if any action is taken against the person. So you want to
Right.
make sure that they know what's going on. So part of that process will be to set them down,
Hmm.
and I would recommend having either their manager with you,
Hmm.
or if you are their manager, I would have someone else that can keep confidentiality. You do know you do want to have a witness
Sure.
to
Okay.
make sure that it's not your word against their word.
Hmm.
Correct. So what you'll do is have a witness. You'll sit down with them and talk about the documentation that you have. This is the way I understood your conversation with so and so, or
Right.
whatever the situation was. And as you're talking to them, get their comments,
Uh-huh.
incorporate that into the document if it's possible. At
Hmm.
that time, if you're sitting by a computer, you may need to go back and
Hmm.
rewrite some things. But ultimately, what you want them to do is sign that, yes, they agree that this is what happened,
Hmm.
and that you are recommending whatever your performance improvement plan is to make sure that that's handled,
Hmm.
and then their signature and date at the bottom of it. And in your performance improvement plan, you're going to want to have a date that they need to have a certain level of improvement by.
Okay.
And if it's work that needs to be improved, maybe they're not doing all the work that that they're capable of doing and should be doing.
Hmm.
Now they need to produce up to that level, and it has to be done by this date. Make sure that you get back with them
Hmm.
on that date to check back on it, because if you're lax in that area, then you
Right.
come back. Just remember, it is very important. So put a little tickler in a file, in your Outlook, something that will alert you in 30 days to check in with this person,
Hmm.
to remind you that I need to follow up with this, because this is an important part of the documentation.
Okay.
So
All right. That makes complete sense. One of the things that I've always been curious about, I know that our payroll company provides employee handbooks to us. Why would we go to a HR consultant for a handbook?
Probably the main reason is that when a company provides one out of the box, and I call them
Mhm.
out of the box because
Right.
they're such as what a payroll company might do, they're going to be working with many different sized employers,
Mhm.
and they need to cover all their bases.
Right.
It needs to be worth their while. They're trying to make money on
Mhm.
it as well, right?
Sure.
So they make a manual that covers all the bases. So if you've got a huge employer, it's going to cover the things that are required of a huge employer. But if you're a small employer, you're
Mhm.
not necessarily required to have those things.
Oh.
However, if it is in your manual and you've distributed it to your employees,
Mhm.
you now have those policies and procedures. You
Okay.
just bought
Right.
yourself some new policies.
Okay.
You really
Makes
need to have.
sense. Sure. So
So,
you can
and
edit
sometimes it can be
you can
expensive.
edit them out. Okay. Yeah.
Yes.
So
So
I don't
yeah,
make a
that would be
mistake.
the value in
Okay.
getting it from a consultant where
Right.
I can actually go through. I can interview you. I can
Uh huh.
find out what is it particularly in your company that's going to be important that we put it here. Now, the caveat is you need to keep in close contact as you grow
Right.
because there are certain things that need to be added
Sure.
as you're
Okay. That makes
growing
sense.
to certain numbers of employees, and you don't
Mhm.
want to be violating rules and regulations because you fell out of touch with your HR person.
Sure. Okay. That makes sense.
hmm
Is there a way to develop a culture of excellence among my employees?
I think there is. It's again, culture is kind of a vague term,
Mhm.
but it's something that we all feel when we walk into a place, whether it's a store or an office. We can all feel it, and I think probably. I don't think this. I really know this.
Mhm.
It starts with the executives and what their opinion of their employees and the company is. What is their vision for the company?
Okay.
That's a huge part of it. If and let me just say this, if the executives haven't bought into it,
Mhm.
you can put in every program you want to
Right.
try and make the culture change and it's not going to happen.
Right. Exactly.
It's just not going to happen
Mhm.
because it's all going to come down to each person reports to the person above them,
Right.
which, as you know, uh, the top people report to the CEO
Sure.
and all the people below them. So everybody's going to always be focused on really what the leadership of the company is doing. So that's probably the very first issue.
Uh huh.
One of the ways once you've gotten buy-in from the executives and you know that they really are on board
Mhm.
with the culture change for an organization,
Right.
the next thing to do would be talk to your customers and listen to them.
Okay.
What do they think about your culture currently? Do they have any suggestions
Okay.
about what would make them feel more valued?
Okay.
What would make them feel like whatever the vision is that
Right.
the executive has for the company?
Uh huh.
Next, I would talk to the employees.
Okay.
And that's a difficult one because
Mm.
they're only going to say what they think you want to hear.
Right. Right.
So it needs to be, however you do it, you need to be able to make it very clear that it's anonymous
Uh huh.
so that they don't ever have any concern with anybody finding out who they are
Right.
because
Okay.
because if it's not honest feedback, it's not going to help you.
Right.
So so that's a key one. You do want to get their input, but you got to make sure that they know it is anonymous. And then you would step by step set activities that it's going to take to reach the goal
Mhm.
that you have for the culture, and don't expect it to happen overnight because it's not going to happen overnight. But if you take one activity that
Mhm.
can lead you toward it, just like you would for a goal in your own life,
Right.
you just take one of those things, you get it to the point where okay, now we're good at this. Let's
Mhm.
take the next thing that's the next step on the way to our goal
Okay.
and work on that until
Okay.
you get it better. And you
Uh-huh.
just kind of keep working on it just like you would a goal of any other type
Okay.
and just move forward that way. And eventually the culture will change, but it does need to start at the top.
Sure. Okay. Great. So I know that lots of employers are worried that they spend a lot of time, effort, and energy in training their employees. And then one day they could just poof up and go somewhere else to do the exact same thing that they're doing for you. Um, how, what can we do to maybe prevent some of that? Or is there anything that we could talk about there?
Well, that is a question that employers have is, what if I train my employees and then they go somewhere else? And there was something that I heard from Zig Ziglar many
Right.
years ago. So I
Uh-huh.
wish I could take credit for it, but I can't. But in response to an employer that asked that question to him, what if I train my employees and they go somewhere else? He said to them, what if you don't train them and they stay?
Oh, well, that's a good question
And
too.
yeah, it is a good question because as expensive as people might think training is,
Uh-huh.
your employees are going to be trained whether they get formal training or on the job training.
Mhm.
And I don't know about you, but the School of Hard Knocks was a pretty expensive
Right. It
education,
sure was.
right?
Yep, yep.
So, yes, training can be a little bit expensive, but I don't think it's anywhere near as expensive as hoping they figure it out along the way.
Mhm.
So, it's really in an employer's best interest in every level,
Sure.
the
Okay.
smoothness of how the business runs, and in I think it comes back monetarily
Mhm.
just as just as much as it does in the smoothness of how the company runs.
Sure. Okay. That makes terrific sense. You know, I want my employees to know how valuable their benefits are. Is there an effective way for me to let them know?
Yes, there actually is there's a good activity that you can do, and some benefit providers offer it. If they don't, I'd be happy to talk to somebody about it. It's called the hidden paycheck.
Okay.
And what it does is it actually takes all of the benefits that an employer offers to their employees, puts them on a document, and lists them out. And it's for each individual employee. So it's not like an overall,
Mhm.
this is approximately what we provide you. This is on your paycheck. These are the things that your employer is paying for you. If the employer offers benefits, it would be specifically the the health insurance that they've chosen,
Mhm.
the vision insurance that they've chosen. Sometimes there's several different options that people have.
Mhm.
Maybe they've got a 401k match,
Mhm.
and the employee puts in whatever amount that they put in, and the employer matches it.
Mhm.
Then the as they're as they're looking at these pages, now they can see the dollar value
Right.
of what this employer is paying for them just free gratis. I mean,
Right.
it's just a benefit of working for them. It's outside of their paycheck.
Right.
And many times this is about 30% of their what their take home pay
Mhm.
is another 30% on top of that.
Right.
So it's pretty significant, and it's a good way. It's a good way to let your employees know. And I think it's important to let them know
Uh-huh.
for retention reasons. And just because as a group of employees over the years, we've become a little bit entitled,
Mhm.
feeling a little bit of entitlement to some of the benefits that we've gotten used to,
Right.
and have forgotten that they're called benefits for a reason.
Right.
They are they're voluntary.
Okay.
The employer doesn't have to offer them to an employee, but
Right.
they do it, and
Uh-huh.
they do it for selfish reasons as well.
Sure.
But there's nothing wrong with letting them know that, and that's a great way to do it.
Okay. All right. Terrific. Terrific. Um, you know, a lot of times, I've gone into businesses and they have a receptionist or an admin sitting at the front desk and it's lunchtime and they're eating there. Is that a cause for concern for employers?
Yes, it is actually. If it's a non-exempt person and they're sitting at their desk during, especially like in an administrative position where they may be
Mhm.
answering the phone during their
Right.
lunch hour,
Uh-huh.
if by any chance they do any kind of work, whether they're answering a phone or answering emails that are work related, that is now no longer a lunch break. and it
Okay.
should be paid.
Okay.
And it's okay if everything is going well for you and the employee at the time, but if for any chance things go sour with that
Mhm.
employee and they happen to tap into one of the many employment attorneys that are out there trying to get their attention, that's one of the key areas that employers get hit and they have to pay back.
Okay.
Now, also the DOL actually has a calculator on their website for
Mhm.
employees to go in and check to see if they've been um, cheated by their employer, which is generally not what the employer meant to do at all.
Right.
So my suggestion is if you do have an assistant that sits at the desk during lunchtime, I would not allow that anymore.
Okay.
I don't
Tell
know
them to
how you
take
would
their
go about
sandwich
that.
and take
Yeah,
their break and
yeah,
maybe
have a
find somebody
lunchroom,
else to sit there while
right? Yeah,
that
if you
person's
need to have,
enjoying their moment.
yes,
Okay. Their
yeah,
sandwich or whatever.
somehow, yes, yeah, somehow have them away from their desk. Maybe have another person at a lunchtime later so that you can stagger lunches,
Okay.
and then it's at least it's covered. But they shouldn't be sitting at the desk at that time where you could be
Yeah.
liable for paying
Oh,
for
I
that.
truly get that. I
Hmm.
truly get that. Is there a best practice for setting up your employee files?
There is. The way your employee files are set up can actually cause you either no grief
Uh-huh.
or a lot of grief.
Right.
One of the things, there's confidential things obviously in the employee files, social security numbers.
Mhm.
Sometimes there's health information
Right.
with regard to employee benefits.
Uh-huh.
When they get insurance and they have to do open enrollment, there's
Uh-huh.
certain things that end up on those documents. So there are certain things that need to be kept in a confidential file. I-9 forms are
Mhm.
a big area that gets mistaken.
Okay.
They do mistakenly, and if you don't get caught, it's probably not going to be a problem. However, if you do get caught, you can get up to $1,100 in fines
Oh,
per
wow.
form
Wow.
on those forms. So it's very important, and they shouldn't be kept with the other employment documents.
Okay.
So setting that up so
Mhm.
that in case you were audited, you would be able to provide a notebook of I-9s,
Okay.
or if you were audited on the employment side and somebody needed to take a look at employment files
Sure.
for employees, that would be that would be the area where it's really going to pay off for you. And just knowing that you don't have to worry about
Uh-huh.
the issues that could be brought up, because if an agency comes in and takes a look at your files,
Mhm.
and let's say you didn't separate your I-9s, you just put them into the employee file and said, "Ah, to heck with it. I'm just gonna go from here. Yeah, we're never gonna get audited." Well, let's say you did get audited. Now this agency comes in and you say, "Okay, well, here's the file." Well, now they have access to everything that's in that file, and if they see something, even if it's not regarding I-9s, but they
Mhm.
can see that it's incorrect,
Right.
now you suddenly are going to be liable for not only the I-9 problems,
Right.
but the other issues that
As
may be
well.
going on in the file.
Oh, very, very important.
Hmm.
Okay. So, Darlene, when someone hires you as their consultant, you can come in, you can help them with their onboarding experience, you can help them set up their files, you can help them through discipline action, you can
Hmm.
help them with their
Correct.
employee handbook.
Correct.
You can help them with their merit awards and their raises.
Hmm.
Anything else maybe that we haven't talked about today, or things that you might be able to help with? HR is so broad. There's so
Yeah,
many
there.
areas that we could talk about. I just want to make sure, we're covering everything, or some of the big things that you can do for a company.
Yeah. The only other thing that I would add to that is job
Job
descriptions.
descriptions. Okay.
That's a big area. And as I mentioned, when companies are growing, they're bringing people on quickly. They didn't go into it with an HR background, and they're not
Right.
expected to. But once you start growing, you still need to attend to those issues. And
Absolutely.
job descriptions can make your life a lot easier in the long run. They can
Right.
actually help you to to hire the right people,
Right.
because now you know at least what you're looking for.
Got it.
So
Yeah.
job descriptions are a big area that employers should probably take a look at. And yes, I can help with those.
Okay, fabulous. You know, our hours here go so fast on Go Mind Your Business. But, if you have questions about HR issues, if you're not sure on how to do something, whatever it is, Darlene is amazing and she'll be happy to help you. She'll answer all your questions. Feel free to visit her website at www.strategichumaninitiatives.com, or you can give her a call at 727-698-4241. I promise you'll be glad you did. She won't steer you wrong. She'll help you make sure your company runs nice, smoothly, effectively, and you won't get into hopefully any trouble, and your employees will all be happy because they know what you expect from them. You've been listening to Go Mind Your Business here on the TalkWad Network, part of the All of Your Business radio program, brought to you today by Extreme Marketing Concepts, putting your business in front of the hungry herd of buyers who are looking for you. If you're looking for greater exposure for your company, give them a call today at 813-863-1452. Thanks again for listening to our program today, and we'll see you next time. Until then, go mind your business. Take care.
Thank you for listening to Go Mind Your Business with Terry Bork, presented by Extreme Marketing Concepts. If you want to drive more traffic, dominate the market, and crush your competition, find out how by visiting our website, www.extrememarketingconcepts.com. And join Terry next time for another episode of Go Mind Your Business.